Hello, everybody. My name is Jay, and I'm a Google Looker Studio expert. And yeah, that's me on the right. That's me on the left now. In this session, we'll be talking about an introduction to Looker Studio, which is a part of Google. It's a Google tool, and it's majorly used to build out dashboards or reports. And essentially, majority of the time, we connect the Looker Studio dashboards to Google Sheets. We have thousands of connectors, and we are going to discuss about that. Now, in order to use the Looker Studio, we need to go on lookerstudio.google.com. Once we are on the Looker Studio platform, of course, you would need to sign in using your email. I'm already signed in at the moment, which is why I see this space over here. Once you are here, you can click on creating a new dashboard. So I'll also talk about the Looker Studio Pro that is going to be in our next videos. But for now, I would not recommend using the Looker Studio Pro version. There's nothing special in this version and the free version, which we are going to use to build out dashboards. So the purpose here is to understand how Looker Studio works and what all we can do. We can build out a dashboard in Looker Studio. I have just a sample dashboard that you can see. It's visible on my screen at the moment. Here is a sample dashboard. It's kind of like a sales dashboard or a marketing dashboard that I built out for one of my clients. Possibly we can use, I use personally using a Google form that was connected to the Google Sheets, and then all the details were using the connector in the Looker Studio. It is flowing out here and showing on the dashboard. We can create bar charts, line charts, and there are going to be a lot of charts that we can build out in Looker Studio, and we'll be discussing about those in a few more seconds from now. So that's an example of a dashboard. In order to get started, we can also go on the home page. Here is on the left-hand pane, we have the navigation to create a new Looker Studio dashboard. Otherwise, we can also use some of the templates, which you can see it right over here on our screen. I would not recommend, because a dashboard that we build out in Looker Studio is always needs to be a custom build. We can never use a template. Majority of the time, we can never use it. Very small chances, very small use cases where we can use templates. And of course, we can use templates. It's not like we cannot, but most of the times it's going to be a custom build Looker Studio dashboard. Now, I'll take an example from here. In this session, we'll only discuss about the interface and how do we use a dashboard. So from here, we have a help section. On the top right corner, we can use these buttons to navigate the report gallery. One of my templates, this one was also highlighted on the gallery here a few while back. This template was also highlighted on this page. I was lucky enough, but not now. And we can search for the featured one. Let's say if we want to use a sales template, we could just type in sales. There was nothing here. And we have some featured templates that we can use right over here. Here are all list of templates which have been built by Google Looker Studio team only. These are very basics. If you would like to enhance these reports, of course, these are custom. So You'll have to connect it to your data. It could be AdWords, it could be the Search Console, YouTube, LinkedIn, or any other source. Once it gets connected, it would show us the live information. We have some community build dashboards. Those are available over here. We can use them as an example to build out. I personally love this one. You can take out some time to see this one. It's for the NBM MVP awards. This one it's graphically very awesome. And I would recommend you to take some, I mean, if you're trying to build out some dashboards. Yes, I personally love this dashboards. And there are a lot of examples that we can use here. We can see some of them and maybe take some inspiration or examples that we could use to build our own reports. Of course, we can absolutely look at some of these examples. Here is one of those, which is an inventory dashboard. Possibly this is built using Google Sheets, which is why it's taking some time. Okay, data is coming from the SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server. As you can see, it's dying down. And the only reason is, as I did mention before, every single dashboard needs to be custom built. This dashboard probably could have been very old and would require us to reconnect. Let's take another example of, and again, the same. Yep. Maybe you might find some of those Looker Studio templates over here, but maybe majority of those are old ones and possibly not good to be used. Oh, here is another one example. Again, not working, but this one is really very nice. Okay, moving ahead from the templates, I will discuss how we can create one of a custom build dashboard for our internal use. So in order to create a dashboard, we need to click on Create button. We can choose Report from here. I'll discuss about the data source and the Explorer later on. But just to give an example, these are data sources. We can build out custom data sources. And there is something called extract data. We can use, these are all of these connectors, and we need to first build out. This is what I was talking about, the extract data, and which works absolutely somewhat similar to BigQuery. They both are Google products. This is to be used when we have the data on the Google Cloud, while this data can be used with Excel or CSV or with any of these, MySQL or any of these, in order to increase the speed. This is really very fast, which is why we always use this. And that's the reason why I was talking about creating the data source. So we can create data source from here. Let's take an example of from the Google Sheets. I have some of the data over here that I can use to create a dashboard. We can use the data from here. There are some of the files. Let's see what all we can. I'll just take one example file and I'll connect it to the data source. But before doing that, we can also go to the home and see the other options which are available in the report section. So once we click on the report section in the Looker Studio, we'll jump right over here to connect a data source. We have more than thousands of options available to connect our Looker Studio and to create the dashboard. For this example, I will simply use just the Google Sheets. This works best when we have the custom data. If the data set is not too huge, we can absolutely go for Google Sheets to create our dashboard. I am going to just use one of the sheets that I used previously, and I'll create a sample dashboard. We can open up the sheet by clicking on this one, and this is how we choose. You can choose any of these spreadsheets. We can also choose a URL and paste the URL of a Google Sheets from here. A lot of data. Let's see what we can do. I will simply click on all of these and we'll create a new spreadsheet and call it Looker. There it is. From here, I'll go back and use the URL, paste it here. Oops. The reason why it's not appearing over here is I need to hit on refresh button. If you have created a recent tab, it would not appear over here, and we would simply need to refresh. I know it sounds kind of like weird, but that's how it works. You'll get a hang of it once you'll start using Looker Studio, and there we go. The Looker tab appears. I can simply go ahead and add my spreadsheet, which is here with some of the tabs, and it takes some time, and there we go. I have successfully connected, and once it's successfully connected, you would see that you could either choose, you can see it from here, all the data source connected to the Looker Studio would appear over here. Once it's connected, you would see two options, and this recently has been added by Google. The free form layout is the older version of Looker Studio, and the responsive layout is like the new version, which Looker Studio recently launched. And the difference between the two is in the free form, we've had a lot of capabilities. What I'm trying to say is capability in terms of moving the items freely on the Looker Studio space, this workspace, which is right over here. In the responsive layout, it's more like blocks, just like we build out the websites on any of the website building platforms. So it is more of easy peasy, but I think I would not recommend going with the responsive layout. It's way too rigid. It's not flexible. It's responsive. It kind of like works best for mobile, and I'm glad they launched this version. Let's give it a try to see how responsive this is. Let's say we are trying to build out a chart. We can simply click on a chart, and there you go. You see these blocks, just like we have it on Google Sites. If you would like to build out sites.google.com, probably you might be familiar with this, another Google product, sites.google.com. And it's kind of like the same blocks that appear over here. So it works just like a Google site. Let's give it a try. If you are familiar with the Google Sites, it'll be easy for you to kind of like, yes, absolutely. For example, if I had to, you see these blocks appearing and we can navigate it. So if you're familiar with the Google Sites, it'll be way too easy for you to handle it. We can simply just, and we can decrease the size using these options over here. In order to add a block, we can add a control, and there we go. This is how it works. The good part about this option when we are trying to build out a new Looker Studio dashboard is it is, and that's what Google claims, it is more responsive. What I'm trying to say is this is more of mobile friendly. If we go on the view mode, let me talk more about um, functions. Right now we are in the edit mode. Here is the view mode. If you are trying to view it as the front end user would see it, you can click on the view button and click on the edit button to go in the editing mode. Now I am in the view mode. I just have added a small chart, and I'm going to show you how responsive this is. This is very much friendly for the mobile version. And I mean, had this, if you would not choose to use this one, let me show you how the other, how this dashboard, this is built in a free form, how this is going to look like. If I had to make this smaller, you see the filters, they are very small. And if you have to use it in mobile phone, you probably won't be able to see these options. So that's the advantage. This is only to be used on desktop or maybe on an iPad. I don't know. I haven't used iPad in my whole entire lifetime, but possibly it would be good enough to be used in iPad as well. But this one, the new one, this is much of user friendly when we are using on a mobile device. The new option for responsive is absolutely added for the mobile version. Much of a jibber jabber. I'll quickly move on to how we can use some of the functionalities in the Looker side. So now I'll be talking about the options which are available on the top. We discussed about adding the resource. Possibly we'll be only discussing about the resources. We can simply click on manage added sources. From here, we have the options available to see what all data is connected in the Looker Studio at the moment, and an option to add the data sources. From here, we can choose thousands of options. For example, we could use Excel file, we can directly upload a CSV file, we could use BigQuery, then other options, and possibly I'll be creating a separate videos for majority of these connections in the later video. Now I'll discuss something about adding the dimensions, not dimensions, maybe just discussing about some of the charts which are possibly available here. We have the table. A table would something look like this option. Here is a table. We have different kind of tables available. We have a normal table, then we have a table with bars, and also table with a heat map. If you have worked in Excel, probably you might be familiar with the heat maps and how we can use some of the functionalities to color code the tables. This would be a good option if we are trying to use a heat map within a table. We have the scorecards. The scorecards are like the cards we can use to display just the numbers, or maybe a text available within our data source. For example, if we have to showcase total number of calls made, I can choose calls made from here and go back to my report. From here, I can simply click on calls made, and this is going to show me. At the moment, it's not showing no data. The reason is because the data is, I can choose today minus 100,000 days. End date. Okay. Today minus 100,000 days. Oops, it doesn't apply. Maybe let me try 100,000. Yeah. I'm not sure how does, I think something is changed, fixed. I'll choose a fix for this moment. I'm so sorry. It looks like 0 days. I don't know why it's not working. Maybe I'll just simply use the fixed date. I think this is an auto range, and maybe which is one of the reasons why, because I got the reason why it wasn't connected properly. The reason was it was not connected to the data source. Had it been connected to the date format, it would have worked. Anyways, so this is how a card looks like, and possibly I could have showed this is how a card would look like in a finished dashboard. But we can also use other charts like a bar chart. Here is an example of a bar chart. I don't have it here, but I can simply change it from here to a bar chart that will look like this. We can add a pie chart as well. A pie chart is a normal pie chart. I do have an example, but I cannot show it right now. But these are just the possible options that we can use within our Looker Studio dashboard. To be honest, to be very honest, there are not much options available within Looker Studio. This is one of my favorites to use the funnel chart, which I demonstrated right over here. This is not a funnel chart that I use. I'm just using the cards and using an image that I just uploaded, but we can also use a funnel chart, which I'm going to discuss later on. Here is an option to change the chart type. We can also use the funnels. It may not work perfectly fine at the moment, but yeah. Here is an option, maybe using the correct data. We can build out a funnel or maybe a timeline, waterfall. Once again, I use this on one of the use cases previously. A gauge chart as well. This can be helpful when building out survey reports. These would be much helpful. This one is the Shanky or the gauge chart. The Shanky is uh, the branch charts. Probably people from using the Power BI might correlate with the tree charts. Those were used. So, yep, these are the types of Looker Studio charts. And in our next video, we will be building out a sample dashboard, something like this, and I'll take it from there. Thanks everyone for watching my video. If you would like to get in touch with me for any problems related to Looker Studio, get in touch. The description has all the contact information. You can get in touch with me to build out the custom dashboard for yourself. If you face any challenge, absolutely get in touch with me, and I'll definitely help you out in supporting. Thanks everyone. Bye now.